I want to start this video by acknowledging how much of a risk it is, but I want something, and for a while I didn't know how to get it. I wanted to make a Counter-Strike map. Didn't have to be in the game officially or anything like that, just a fun, fair, finished map. And the story of how I've gotten to even this point is worth a series of videos. So this video is going to document the process from May to now, which is the start of August 2025. But before we go into that, some of you who have watched my channel for a while might be wondering, hold on, don't you make LEGO videos? And yes, I do, and I'm not stopping making LEGO videos. I promise there are more on the way, I just can't guarantee when. The second question might be, don't they look a bit fruity? And I'll leave you to decide that one. And the third would be, hold on, in a video you uploaded over a year ago, you mentioned something about designing a Counter-Strike map. What happened to that one? So yeah, hi, I'm Mikopath, I am an animator, I make LEGO videos, and I'm one of those guys who vanishes for months at a time and then comes back with a great big video. You're right, I did start designing a Counter-Strike map over a year ago called DE Discovery. It was set in a science museum with one of those walk through the human body exhibits, with the A site being the heart. Me and Catsnip, who helped design it, really couldn't decide on a B site though. But overall I do think that it's a really fun location and it's worth returning to one day, and if that's where this series of videos ends up, that'd be amazing because DE Discovery feels like my baby at this point, I love it. Overall the biggest problem a year ago was that someone wanting to make a map for the first time, it's way too ambitious, especially someone learning Hammer for the first time. Oh, and let's talk about Hammer. So Hammer is the primary tool that Valve and the community use to make anything that goes into a given game, but for the community, it's mostly maps. From the stories I've heard, the original version of Hammer was an absolute nightmare to use, but with the advent of Source 2 and Half-Life Alyx, the newest Hammer version, which I think is called Hammer 5, is pretty good. In my opinion, it's actually awesome. I think Hammer is a super user-friendly program, and that's coming from someone with literally thousands of hours in Blender. The jump from Blender to Hammer really wasn't that difficult for me. There are definitely some quirks, but overall I think it's a very easy program to get started in. And the more I learned it, the more rewarding I found it. Let's redirect our attention for a second back to DE Discovery. It definitely gives off baby's first map, even looking at the layout. Like, you can see that I understand that there's supposed to be multiple bomb site entrances and really fair sightlines, but you can see that I have no idea how to elegantly execute those things. Let's not even address how utterly sad and underthought and scary all of B-site looks, or the fact that it's very uninteresting to approach the site as a terrorist. I wish I had more footage of this map, but I accidentally deleted it when I was clearing my workshop folder to make space for Pick a Piece, which is a web show that I animate for. Either way, after about 2 weeks of working on this map, I realized my time was going to be eaten up by Pick a Piece, and my interest on Counter-Strike kind of waned, as well as my interest to make maps. But as production came to a close on Pick a Piece, I found myself free again, and that hunger reignited. I was dying for something to do that wasn't LEGO. So I started playing the game regularly again. I started watching content creators again, and watching majors again, and investing in the skins market again. But I also started playing a lot of Counter-Strike custom maps. And right while I started doing that, the map core mapping contest started. And a YouTuber called T2Muir made a video reviewing every qualifying entry in the grey box stage. And I thought that was so interesting and inspiring, so I started diving in again. And I don't want to gatekeep my resources, so I'm going to tell you everything I used when I got started learning Hammer again. First are the incredible CS2 tutorials by Sami Chimonahehe at the Eagle 1 team. They're just essential. Essential. You can't miss them. Next were a series of scattered re-uploads of a map layout workshop by RazzleDazzle uploaded to Oloft's channel. From the episodes that I've seen, he really helped me understand informed and intelligent map layout design, making sure that it was as fair as it could be while still being as fun and unique. And finally, jumping forward in time, I can't neglect to mention Jim Wood and Angel, who are both respective developers of the tool RadGen, which the entire community uses to generate their overhead map images. It's an incredible tool, and their Discord server was an immense help in all the problems I was having along the way. This is a lot of yapping, so let's talk about the first map I tried to make when I decided to get back into this. This is DE Convenience, and it never made it past this drawing. This is a Wingman map, which I should explain now. Wingman is a 2v2 game mode as opposed to a 5v5 on a smaller map, with only one bomb site. But Convenience was a Wingman map set very faithfully on a McDonald's convenience store hybrid in Lovingston, Virginia, where I went a lot with my dad growing up in the summer holidays. The bomb site itself is the McDonald's kitchen, probably the air fryer or the fryer, just because I think that would be funny. And the layout is pretty simple, but maybe I'll revisit it because it is quite nostalgic and I think I could capture it really well, but it just didn't feel like the right time. Then one night I went kind of crazy. I was up for I think 26 hours or something ridiculous like that, just like back and forth in my head trying to find some purpose outside of what I'm doing for Pick a Piece. Just looking for a reason to create that didn't necessarily involve Lego for once. Really going back and forth in my head, and eventually I went kind of manic and just started drawing at like 3 a.m. and I drew this, and I liked it, and my friends liked it too. I was really enticed by this concave design and the gimmick of having a side at the middle of the map. The name kind of knocked around in my head, Concave. And that's how Concave was born. We were all staring at this illustration for a really long time, and collectively we all kind of agreed, this layout with all the stairs is sort of reminds me of Coco, the movie Coco. So from there I decided, why don't we set it in a Mexican city? We make this map in a Mexican city, and Cinco de Mayo celebrations were in full swing and the terrorists came in and ruined everything. That seemed like a really interesting place to start. I think I spent about a week in Hammer just building out the first draft, and when the first draft was finished, it was kind of a mess. Specifically, I remember Catsnip running around the map for the first time and hit this ridiculous jump that just like pissed me off. I was like, what? Why would you do that? Why would you go there? But it made a really powerful angle that was just like not fair for anyone. On top of that, the upper part of the map was very claustrophobic and it just lacked good cover and good geometry at all. And I sort of sat back and racked my brain for a while trying to think of how I improve this. How do I make draft 2? And I'm sitting at this empty drawing board looking at my old map design and still quite liking it, but knowing something's wrong. I was complaining about this problem to my partner, Worriwort, also known as Terry. They said something that brought me back to what RazzleDazzle had said in his videos. I was lacking environmental context. To quote something Razzle says in his videos, there's a balance between formalism and realism. Formalism is the video gaming stuff and realism is the realistic stuff. And I had designed this map entirely on the layout, so it was all gameplay. I didn't even know where it was set when I started sketching it, right? So they went, you know, you've got these gaps, you need to focus on the gaps in between the paths and make a space, make the town, give all these buildings purpose. And that's what I did. So I hit the drawing board again with that in mind, and draft 2 was so much stronger. I took additional care with every building and made sure there were more small pathways to give any player more options for this map. For example, there is now an apartment path through the B-Long push, because I got a lot of complaints about B-Long being really long and exhausting and not fun. There's a security office right next to B-side as well, which has a path that connects right across mid over the back of the stage in the courtyard. There's a little shop at the CT entrance, which allows players to push mid a little bit more aggressively. And lastly, I completely reworked the building that Teaser met with, and there's just a larger amount of space in general. While testing with bots, it was fun on occasion, but I often found that they would love to push this area right here and feed each other, just one by one, just killing each other until it was me and a bot left over, which got very frustrating trying to test bomb sites. Overall though, I think Concave is alright. I was happy with how this draft had come out. It has a couple of fun angles, especially on B site, where these statues I used as placeholders are like the perfect width to obstruct certain entrances from where you're hiding, which led to some really interesting risk-reward plays. On top of that, just removing some ceilings in some areas made the whole place feel a lot less suffocating. But unfortunately, it was this point when I realized my biggest weakness, something that can't be fixed by a tutorial. Let me say first that I love being a LEGO guy. I love designing and making sets. I love the iterative process, and I like the control. I love that when I'm happy with something, I can call it done. And up until this point, Hammer is like that. Hammer is very similar to LEGO, and I think a lot of map makers falter at this same point that I'm about to describe, because it's so easy to get a map layout done in this program, but then when you're happy with it, you have to iterate it. You've got to fix all that geometry, everything, from scratch. So at this time, I realize I'm simply not patient. And I get frustrated, and I design another map. So maybe a dense residential town in a country I've never been to isn't the best idea for a first map, and with that came DE Ecstasy. The idea is simple. It's set in London, and London is not simple, and I'm already getting worried. But it is simpler. It's much less dense. There's only 4 main buildings that we really have to focus on as a creator and as a player. It makes it a lot less confusing. Terrorists spawn in the Orpshot tube station. Working their way up, they can either split to mid or around to A site. The counter-terrorists spawn on the bank of the Thames, looking over the river at the London Eye and standing outside of a kebab shop. A site is a nightclub called A Sight to Behold, and this is the reason for the name Ecstasy, because, you know, nightclubs, drugs, that's the joke. There you go. If you don't get the joke, that's the joke. And B site is a bookstore sort of in the vein of a Weatherspoons? Waterstones. In the vein of a Waterstones called Brilliant Books. The map was much more designed to follow a 4-square design principle. If you don't know what that is, it's, for example, on this grid behind me, and if you design the map around that, you're most likely going to get a pretty healthy map. There are plenty of maps that follow the 4-square design in the game. For example, Dust 2, Mirage, and Ancient. This map took a lot less time to initially design, and it took even less time to get blocked out into Hammer. I had the map laid out in like 2 days. I tried to adhere to the larger measurement scales in Hammer, i.e. 16 units, 32 units, and 64 units, except for making stairs which do have a standardized scale. So I followed that. I fought tooth and nail with my perfectionist urges to follow what I had drawn to a T, but I held off. I made the changes when it was necessary and made more sense when I was seeing it in a 3D space. This certainly did have its hurdles, especially that Hammer sometimes will just turn off vertex snapping or will turn off grid snapping, and I have no idea why, nor am I smart enough to realize when it happens for at least 15 minutes. I did make minor changes to the illustrated map, like adding this vent into A site, which I ended up hating. Another thing is that the props on B site looked kind of oversized to me, and as I went about fixing them and rejigging the site, it was time for a vacation. 2 weeks away at the seaside. It was grounding for sure, but it made me quite insecure. I realized maybe like 2 or 3 days into this holiday that I was not going to be revisiting this map anytime soon. And that was demoralizing. While on holiday, we went to a place called Rare Breeds, and that was really therapeutic and fun. I mean, look at all these cute animals I got to talk to about Counter-Strike maps. But being here got my brain churning. I started taking pictures of the buildings around, just trying to understand the architecture in my head. When we got back to where we were staying, I cracked out my sketchbook and I tried my best to draw the entrance of Rare Breeds from memory, including the little petting zoo section and some of the stables and all that stuff. With, of course, a few map alterations for balance. It was okay. A little hard to understand, more of a creative flow than an actual map sketch. And after I drew that, I realized, oh, I want to make this into a video, because if I keep doing this for nothing, I'm gonna go crazy. And 2 days before we left holiday, I got myself a sketchbook and some pens. I actually have a set of pens, a set of pencils, there's a sharpener in there too, and a sketchbook. That evening I had been contemplating this project and had begun writing the script that I'd been reading for the past however many minutes, and I was thinking that maybe Wingman maps might be the way to go for a little bit. Really get my skill up before I approach something as daunting and big as a 5v5 map. Meanwhile, on this location, it was stupid hot, and I had not had any antihistamines, and the pollen was crazy. So I was sneezing like a madman, my head hurt, my body hurt, I was just aching, it was not the best feeling. And meanwhile on this, I'm trying to design a map with no ideas in my head, staring at this blank canvas with no preconceptions about what I'm supposed to do with it. And that's when ever-reliable Terry takes the sketchbook from my hands and says, I'm gonna draw you a bomb site shape, and I'm gonna write a word, and you're gonna design a map around it. And I thought that was a pretty good idea. So they took a moment, they took my sketchbook, they turned the page away from me, and I heard the pencil scuffles on the page, saw the hand maneuver up to the top corner and write a word. They handed the sketchbook back to me, and I saw this shape and this word. Which is funny, given my current state, sneezing like a madman. Obviously, my brain at that moment was geared to associate sneezing with my Hayfever. Hayfever is a pretty cool map name too, and within minutes it clicked. A hay bale maze set in a rural English or American farm, autumn vibes. And for some reason, this little part on top of the bomb site made me think that a tractor would be the perfect thing to put there. And the rest, truthfully, just flew out onto the page. And within 45 minutes, I had this fully sketched. And I loved it. I knew over the next 2 days I'd have to make sure not to get too attached to it though, because I wanted to have the creative flow and I wanted to design more and be less attached to every idea I have. More aptly, I would say I didn't want my affinity to stop me from making other, even better maps. So Terry and I did the exercise again and again and again with little variations. The second one, I drew the bomb site and Terry just drew a single path that I had to work into my layout. And you have to keep in mind that Terry doesn't play much Counter-Strike, barely any, which made it a very unique challenge. I also realized looking at the second layout that the spawns and the bomb site are practically the exact same general layout as I just did for Hayfever, so I realized pretty quickly that was going to be a problem that I needed to work through as well. Next, Terry drew an entire outline and told me to fill in the gaps, which led to a very interesting layout. I think we did that like 2 or 3 more times. We just kept going back and forth, giving myself these challenges. I think we made about 6 or 7. The last one here grabbed my attention as well. It looks like a pretty fun, solid, simple map. But again, much like Concave, I had no idea what the theming was. Finally at my desk after 2 agonizingly lovely weeks, I went against my better judgment and I decided to get into Hammer and block out the 7th sketch. And I did get it down. Much like my worries in the sketching process, didn't have the right theme. I didn't know what kind of a place it was. I only knew the shape. It was really holding it back. And meanwhile, Hayfever is still knocking about in my mind as the much better idea. I don't have to design a small town or a chunk of a massive, widely known city. I just have to make one hay bale maze in the middle of nowhere. This is doable. So I began the block out. I tried my best to eyeball my sketch for a while before I realized that was a psychotic thing to do, and imported the sketch in and used that as my base layer. And blocking this map out came pretty naturally, and I think I had it done in about 6 hours. And luckily, Hammer already has a really nice hay material built in, so that cut out a lot of the work. So I was pretty quickly able to contrast the grey box map mess into a established idea with a little bit of texture work. And as I'm going with this, I'm thinking this is manageable. Even if I don't finish it, I know that I can get way further than I ever have with these other maps. And I was right. Once again, I took little deviations away from my original sketch. I added things that felt natural or added cover, I tested it with my friends, and that was met with a lot of positivity. Then I tried a semi-art pass. I created some facade models of the hay bales to give the map that depth and make them, you know, better than just big rectangles of a hay material. I added some location indicators by trimming each of the hay bale stacks with different colors. Then I added those power lines above, which extend the map both vertically and beyond the playable space to just give a little bit more depth to these placeholder wooden walls. And I definitely want to get rid of these wooden walls eventually. At the end of the day, the main goal of this is to sell the scale of the environment and to make it feel real and interesting. But this is also a new landmark part of the process for me. I've got basic sound design in now. When you're close to the tractor, you can hear it rumbling, and when you're further away, you can just hear the ambience of the field around you. With a bit of downtime in my heart after this massive chunk of progress, I got into a draw pile with a bunch of my friends, and we looked over the overviews of many Wingman maps that are currently in the game. We also looked at Grail because I wanted to talk about some 5v5 maps, and I wish we had recorded this, but it was a very interesting experience because we're all Counter-Strike players and we all have different things about maps that we like and dislike, so it was really cool to just have this sort of casual conversation explaining why these layouts maybe make sense or maybe don't make sense. But at the end of the day, these are my friends and they have biases, and I understand that and I love that for me because they all really like the map. Even if they think there are problems with it, at the end of the day, I think they're happy that I'm making it. But I needed expert opinions. I thought Hayfever was solid. So I got in some Discord servers, I shot my shots, and I had some conversations. Alright, so introduce yourself and what you're known for.
My name is T1Muir, or T-Muir, and I'm mostly known for my YouTube channel, T2Muir, where I talk about Counter-Strike, mostly its maps and the level design behind them, stuff like that.
Hi, so I'm RazzleDazzle. I'm known for making Olaf's layout videos.
I'm Sami Chimonahehe Alyubi. I am the founder of a group of Source 2 developers, people who love developing for this engine, called Eagle One Development Team.
Hi, I'm Angel. I think if I had to pick something, it would be Dogtown and Redgen.
Firstly, when did you start playing Counter-Strike and what made you specifically interested in mapping?
Oh, okay, so that's easy. So Counter-Strike, I think I started playing Counter-Strike 1.6 maybe when I was, I don't know, 7 years old, 8.
Wow.
In Counter-Strike 1.6, there's like no single player option, and for the longest time I would just like log on and explore the map like just alone, like without bots, and I didn't feel comfortable connecting to any multiplayer servers, so didn't have internet connection at the time. Like, of course, enjoyed the gameplay and all of the other aspects, but from very early on I was into maps. I liked exploring other people's maps, like exploring official maps. And I was already like from age 8 or something inspired to make my own maps.
I've been a level designer for Minecraft and for Counter-Strike for about 10 years now. In Counter-Strike, I started right about during the pandemic. I actually didn't know it was possible for a really long time. I already had 2,000 hours in the game, and I had never even heard of Hammer or community map making. I knew that like FM Pwn had made maps, but I thought that you had to know like Unreal Engine and Blender and all sorts of complicated stuff to make maps. And one day I was Worriwort was making a map called Amigo a long time ago now, in a devlog series, and I watched it and it inspired me so much that I decided to download the editor and give it a shot. And I mean, it was a pandemic, so I kind of locked myself in my basement, and I just like went ham.
I wanted to do something during COVID, and so I picked up actually a VR headset and got Half-Life Alyx. They were supposed to have released Hammer toolset with a Half-Life Alyx release. That was what they promised, and they never did. I ended up joining the Half-Life Alyx like Discord, and then seeing that within a week of getting the VR headset, Valve decided to officially release the tools. But there was no documentation. I was really fortunate enough to make a few friends along the way. They were developers who had worked on Source 2 titles in the past. Voice chat with them in Discord, share screen, and see how to use this engine. And I ended up, as a result of that, taking that knowledge and creating YouTube videos after making a few maps and releasing them on Half-Life Alyx.
A couple years back, well, more like 7 to 8 years back, I got introduced to CSGO by IRL friends, and we used to play these hide and seek maps all the time. And we played them so much, we ran out of hiding spots. So I was like, wait, maybe I can learn mapping and I can add more hiding spots to these maps. And I did just that, and then I realized, wait, I actually like mapping.
What would you say is your favorite part of the map making process?
My hot take is that I more so like editing an existing map rather than creating like an entirely new one. And making the smaller adjustments based off feedback
Right.
and thinking about it after it already like exists in players' minds and in the world is so much more fun. And I feel so much better about it. Like I feel like the more concrete environment of knowing, okay, last time I tested it, players behave like that. What do I do to change the behavior? That like feels so much more concrete and interesting to me.
My favorite part is definitely the gray box stage. Everything after that is increasingly difficult for me. My favorite thing is loading into a fresh new project with absolutely nothing and just seeing that blankness, you know, just the grid. The grid is my best friend.
Oh, definitely the playtesting. There is so much eagerness from the community to playtest the newest maps and get it out there. So as soon as you develop something, being able to get feedback on it within 24 hours, you just post it and right away. The best part is, you know, seeing your what you envisioned in your map play out.
Oh, definitely lighting. Source 2, when it calculates lighting for levels, that's why it looks so good. It actually does full ray tracing when it compiles the maps. As a mapper, you have live ray tracing preview in Hammer as you're working on maps.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part. I love doing lighting. Before I got into CS2 mapping, when CSGO moved over to Source 2, I used to do all kinds of stuff in Blender.
What's probably your least favorite part of the map making process? What makes you roll your eyes?
Detailing is just it's straightforward because it just requires the most amount of effort for least amount of result. Like the same amount of time that takes me to create a brand new map would take a modeler to create like one single prop for a finished map.
Totally.
Like all of the textures, normal maps, modeling, whatever. I have no idea how these people stay sane.
I think my least favorite part right now, like the most difficult part, is actually small props detailing. Once you have that finished gray box, even if you have all the buildings done and all the proportions are right and everything looks good, now you have to put the tiles on the roof and put the rocks on the ground. It's a different kind of creativity than what I have.
Making requests and asking questions about like certain things and why they're not working, and like getting little to no response back. And that's primarily on the Half-Life Alyx side of things. Half-Life Alyx had 0 post-release support.
Wow.
When they released the editor, that was it. They didn't say one word.
Layout and gameplay. I hate that. That was all Jim's doing. Jim, not Jim Wood.
Oh, a different
Jim
Jim.
F. Kennedy. Different Jims. Yes, I work with 2 Jims. It's confusing.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah,
no way.
he did the layout. He also hated it.
What has been the biggest hurdle you've faced working on your most recent map?
I would say that I don't think I have any huge hurdles. It has been going very, very smooth in comparison to some other projects that I've worked on. The biggest hurdle that I will face eventually is detailing it, because once again, I'm not good at it at all. And I will like maybe just pray that someone who actually is good at detailing will come along and detail it.
You know, the biggest hurdle is actually just that the map is a little too big, and it's actually best suited for 3v3. The biggest issue was I drew the mansion too small. I just got the scale a little wrong, and now the consequence is that the underground driveway is actually proportional, right? Like the whole thing is proportional, but from a level design like gameplay perspective, it's too big.
For us, we wanted to make sure that the map was playable for anybody who wanted to jump on. What actually ended up hurting us the most was that we spent more time doing this instead of trying to push more of the visual aspects of it. That I think ended up being a bigger percentage of the final score at the end of the day. Visuals for us, although they were a part of it, they weren't the most important part. And we're proud of it because we believe of all the maps that were there, it is one of the 3 most optimized maps.
Yeah, the thing we've talked on was, I would say both Jim and I were quite good at just churning things out. It was more of like, the most difficult part was probably nearing the end of it, when we realized, oh, we need to optimize this. This doesn't run so well. And from a technical standpoint, I would say I know how the engine works decently, but it was really difficult to optimize Nocturne because it's a pier. It's incredibly flat. You can't really make the engine be like, okay, the player is now here. This part of the map is saved from this other part. I'm not gonna render that. So we had to do all these weird things with like invisible blocks in the sky to block off areas.
I will ask quickly though, how long has that map taken, like roughly, if you had to guess the hours spent so far?
I'm working on it at a very brisk pace because I feel like I just have a lot of experience, both in mapping, of course, and also in limited time competitions. I also participate in game jams every year and stuff like that. So that I feel like I'm quite good at time management and stuff like that.
Okay.
So if we're talking like just raw hours, I would say it maybe I would say a week at most, if not even, well, maybe can go even down to like 3-4 days of just raw time.
Like pure hours. Okay.
So Dumbo is a year old now. She's my baby. She said her first words and everything. Oasis, I've only been working on for a month now, but when it comes to like the stages of production that I'm comfortable working with, i.e. not detailing, it only takes me about a week to finish a Grey Box.
Oh wow! So yeah, the map flick that we worked on was for the big adventure map. It took up over a year in production time. I believe it was a year, actually. Yeah, just about. There are 6 people who were main contributors. The logistics of handling this, at least within our team, has become a sort of a horizontal method that replicates what Valve does. For example, within our team, we have about 50 people within Eagle One. Like we have about 15 mappers. We've got like 10 asset makers. And so when we create a project, we just announce to the group, hey, this is a project we're making for this engine, for Alex or for Sandbox or for Counter-Strike 2. And so we have a multitude of projects. Like right now, we do have an Alex project being worked on. We have 2 other Counter-Strike 2 maps being made, and we have 2 Sandbox games in development.
Roughly a year. I'm not trying to say people are lazy or people don't work hard. I think a part of that is a year is kind of the maximum of how long someone can work on a map and not go insane. Like I think you could definitely finish one of these maps faster if you just went. And I think a year is when a lot of people towards the end of it just start working on it to finish it and get it out so they're done with it.
Right. What is a map making trope or like a common pitfall that really dampens your personal enjoyment of a map?
When it's a newer mapper, it's hard for me to find like something I would hate about their map or find it annoying. Like even if a new mapper like has like super long ranges or super tight maps or whatever, like there's a bunch of possible issues. People really like to make their maps super sprawling and big, or some parts that I will even mention with your maps later down the line, like some stuff that we call like spaghetti design and stuff like that. There's a lot of those. The worst crime for me is being boring. I just feel like at this point in time, even if you make like the coolest, the most beautiful map, whatever, if you just give it like the simplest like 3-lane layout, like I would still respect it. Like even though it's cool and it's a new community map, like why would I play this instead of playing like Mirage again or whatever?
You know all the call outs, you know all the angles, you don't have to spend all the time relearning and...
Oh my god, there's a couple for me. The biggest one is I hate when I'm playing a map and there are orange textures all over the place. The second one is when people are making a map and the whole thing is one mesh. Like they just took the sides of the level, right? The edges of the playable space and just raise it up. What
is like specifically a layout problem or trope that you really don't like?
Oh yeah, maps that are wider than they are tall. If the space between the bomb sites is further apart than the space between CT and T-spawn from like a bird's eye perspective.
A lot of people make maps and the gameplay has not been at all considered as a part of the creation. Rather, it becomes much more as a aesthetical mishmash of beautiful aesthetics. You can tell when something's not tested. It's in any type of game now, I get a much better feeling too of the type of play testing that went into it after having gone through it myself.
I'm not gonna give you a very satisfying or good answer here, but I think I can scurry around the question and talk about art again. Dusty maps. This is a trope around Counter-Strike maps that everything has like a dusty feel to it. It either looks like Dust 2 or Mirage. That has changed a lot with CS2, especially with the contest in map core.
We don't need more, like Mirage and Dust 2 are perfectly fine.
how a lot of creatures, if left to evolve long enough, kind of turn back to crab. The average Counter-Strike map will turn back to Dust 2.
Is that I've got to look that up. Is that true? What is like a crucial piece of advice you would give to someone wanting to start making maps?
I think my biggest advice, even not only for mapping, just for your whole life, is to not overscope things. Keep everything as much a small scope as you can, and if you're not sure, make it even smaller. It's, for example, when you go out to make a new map, it's very important what is your final goal.
Yeah.
So if your final goal, like if you make your first map and your final goal is to have like the best map in the world that is like added to the game, then you're just bound to fail. So
Yeah.
you will just. But if you make a new map and your goal is, for example, is to have a complete 5v5 layout that is fun for me to play with my friends and is like clean yet not detailed, it kind of sounds like a bit of a disappointing goal to have. But if you have this goal, you will achieve it, you will feel good about yourself, and you will feel so much better about starting your next project.
Literally just learning mesh manipulation, learning how to build geometry. That's like the bread and butter of any Counter-Strike map, is literally just modeling out your map. If you spend a long time cooking on an idea, you can get really attached to it. You'll get frustrated with yourself because you're not able to actually make it because it's a complicated idea. Like a lot of people's first maps are set in Japan, and Japan is known for complex architecture. If you know that your project is going to be complicated, spend some time just like learning how to make a table or a chair, or otherwise you're going to end up being really unskilled when you're making one area, like say your B-bomb site, and then a week later you're making your A-bomb site, and like you've gotten better at actually making the map, and then you have to go back to the B-bomb site and redo it, and then you have to go back to the A-bomb site and redo it.
Always be open to everyone's technique on how to make something. There's no one right way to do something. It's like essentially a mindset that I hope people don't get into, which is just thinking that there's only one way to do something and you have to do it that way. And I'll give an example. Doors. This is I'm saying this is a very specific topic, going back to Armin. I can't tell you how much this topic of how to create a door correctly fractured the Alex community.
Tutorials. Eagle 1 has a really good CS2 beginner tutorials course. Definitely watch that first at like a minimum. It's gonna explain everything perfectly. Like how you even install a hammer, how you launch it, what you should do as a beginner. It's gonna teach you some very good workflow tips.
Now we get to my 3 maps, which this whole video is about. Could I get your opinion on them?
I like all of the colors and like the shapes. That's something I can genuinely commend you on. Right of the rip, like I log in, everywhere I see is interesting shapes. I think it just shows that you have experience in 3D.
Starting off with the obvious, I think that the map definitely has some jank.
It definitely does.
Going on. It's clear that you are still learning the editor here, but we can already see some hints of what the future holds with some very nice examples of just pretty composition, nicer details. If you had, for example, 500 hours of map making experience, you could have pulled something this complex off. Having
really complex shapes is like a flex more so than like a legitimate design choice. But I think here it works out really well in terms of like just giving them up like a unique feel.
I put them down in that sort of formation, and from there, the goal of the map went wherever you are, like any important place, you always get a good view of that.
We have a funny name for that. So weenie.
Weenie.
A weenie, yeah. You can see it from everywhere.
Interesting.
It's from theme parks.
Well, first of all, looking at the radar, even from the very first image you showed, so this type of design, in general, this how would you describe it? It's like something we call like spaghetti design or like spider legs design. It's basically when you have like a couple of areas that you were inspired for, and then you just connect everything with really long, sprawling tunnel systems. And that is something that I think caused the problems you mentioned with people like not liking to push somewhere because it's just so long and you don't have much in between.
I think that I've spent enough time on this map. I can tell you put a lot of love into, but you might, if you wanted to save the radar, the radar and the layout, right? you'd
Yeah.
probably have to restart.
But nonetheless, I think for like something that I respect so much is the unique shapes and the unique lanes and the that you played with verticality. Yeah, even if you don't feel the most confident about your map, like just playing it with other people, even if they don't like it, but just having the experience of being on it with actual people will give you like a boost of confidence and motivation, in my opinion. I would say like once again, for the first map, this is just great because again, it's not boring. Like for me personally, maybe some people will disagree with me and start like critiquing you here and there.
That is so detailed. Hello. Well, I can definitely see the vision that you've got going on in the sketch.
Of course, and also very, very important to point out that I have no idea how this plays, because I can look just like surface level on the maps like for hours and still not even be like 50% familiar with how they actually play. But I would say in general, as a rule of thumb, don't trust anyone's opinion unless they actually play them up with other people.
But the idea is definitely salvageable.
Okay.
Just like your hard idea, that gives me that's getting my inspiration flowing. Like I want to work on a project like that. Yeah.
So here, right off the rip, even before you say, I was myself when exploring it, I was able to tell that by looking at this that it's based on a real place.
I could glaze this for a little bit. I think that this is a huge improvement from what you first said. So let me draw in red attack lanes here. So obviously we've got the middle lane, which has 3 entrances, 1 exit. So 1 mid lane, your main A lane, a side split lane that goes twice towards A. You can see how much this map is pointing towards the A bomb site. The B bomb site is set up around a square, which is immediately going to make it very difficult once T's, for example, throw 2 smokes. I just want to talk to you a little bit about how much better it is in Hammer than it is on the sketch in some areas.
Oh, really? Okay.
This is way better.
Here, if I am to say, there's still the spaghetti. Also, like on the other map, remember that I mentioned I commended you on all of the shapes being very unique. Yeah, and that's a double-edged sword because unique shapes make your map feel unique, but also make players like more likely to get frustrated with the angles. While here, because everything is square, it kind of makes it less interesting, but also it makes just players feel more comfortable playing around those. So,
is this better for 10v10 or is this better for 5v5? And I think in 10v10, this map is going to be really fun. Still, the CT spawn is kind of crazy.
I was especially thinking when I first checked out that this area right here feels like super great. This I think you can just plop out, put in like an in quote unquote like actual finished map, and this would I feel like this one is just great. I love, that's I think would be my biggest like complaint about the 2 maps we checked out so far is that I loved when you think of your lanes and areas and the maps more like areas rather than corridors, if that makes sense. It could have been just a straight tunnel and then another straight tunnel that goes here, but instead you combine them in this interesting shape, and that's what makes it so cool. I like how you went like maybe more ambitious and more imaginative with the beaming on this one. Like this is a really cool bomb site. This is not something you say every day.
You.
My favorite part has got to be this bomb site.
Yeah.
I mean, check this out. This is cool. But I think that this map is infinitely more promising than the first one. In fact, I would totally playtest this map. This is where it starts breaking down a little bit. I almost feel like still CTs should be spawning in here and the map could be a lot simpler, but this is the best part of the map for sure, but it's useless. So I would just move the entrances here and here. It's not competitive, but it could be fun and casual.
You can say in Wingman everything goes much more than in competitive maps, and so also because of that it's kind of harder to judge, because like I would look at, for example, this area and say this kind of looks weird for a 5v5 map, but on a Wingman kind of everything goes, so I'm not even sure if this is that bad.
Gameplay wise, the map is set in a maze, so you would expect it to have a pretty unintuitive and maze-like layout, and it does. I see exactly where you're going with this. The CTs have such a nice timing to the site.
You can see that you improved with your angles. They're much more reasonably scaled, and like there's some areas that you want to play if you play in close range. There are some areas that you want to hold if you're a long range player, some medium range. There's like a good variety in terms of that. So that is a big improvement because your last 2 maps felt very, very long range focused.
So art-wise, the world is pretty basic, isn't it?
Yeah.
My main takeaway is just that the whole map is only set inside of the maze. My first instinct looking at this is, where is the hay stored? Is there a barn over here? Is there a fairground? Like, are there rides going on? Is there a market?
Right.
Like, are there people selling hot dogs? What about like the buckets where you can plunge for apples? The fair is a great setting. I feel like there could be more variety to like the kinds of spaces that you get to play in, because this would get pretty monotonous pretty fast.
Like this feels like such a more realistic theme to pull off as a solo mapper, especially new ones. It gives a vibe, like, you know, I have a feeling I'm at a place somewhere. My biggest complaint for this one would be once again areas. I was interested by this shape right here, this hook shape, if you can call it that. What's its purpose basically? So these two paths both lead to the same place. Change, for example, if this area was higher, then you could have like sneaked below it and then picked close, or like from far away you can see like higher above objects.
And the other thing that's definitely missing on this map is height variation. But a barn would give you that opportunity to like get up over everything and like look out with like a lookout window.
Oh, I have an idea already. Okay, that's good.
The other thing is I hate this fence.
But it just would be more interesting, more exciting for players if this was like an area you can explore rather than a tunnel you go down. And also, yeah, just a little bit of, even though it kind of maybe not fit for the theme of the map, but like just a little bit of verticality. If this whole spawn area was like 32 units higher, and then at some point you walked off, that just feels like 10% more like an adventure going through it than
yeah, I'm
than
already
just,
having ideas from you saying that, so that's super good.
Yeah, you should totally do like a nice like farm village sprawling all around it, you know, with like the rolling like mounds of dirt, like they just sowed the earth.
One thing also I'll add is that I see that you added color trims to differentiate them. And that's a neat idea, but it's also kind of like shows that this is kind of a crutch, because like your maps areas are not distinguished like enough by themselves, so you had to add like extra, like this is a hay bale that you go around. What if, for example, that this wooden wall would have continued like straight, but there's like a cave inside of it or something, like or it overhangs and like there's a wooden whatever. Like
the other thing I want you to do is like use the displacement tool to subdivide the floor, and I want you to like just very slowly like put little like dimples in the ground.
This like is the most like instantly likable map of yours, because like the other two ones, even though I personally like and respect them a lot, like this one I can tell that like most people can see in this, look, okay, I'll try this, like, you know, I'll play this. This looks like something I might want to play.
I just want to say though, in general, this is a huge improvement from your previous two maps.
That's very good.
This is a good map.
But the overall, this one, yes, clearly your best one so far. Just again from the first look.
And my last question then is, do you have anything to promote?
So I'll promote first of all, if you do finish this map or get it like into a state that you want it to be played. First of all, get on Mapink. It's our Discord server where we play these custom maps. So I think that would be a great experience for you to get 10 players who are unfamiliar with who are you and like have no biases at all to check it out and give you some feedback. And so I'll promote the Discord, and of course also subscribe to me on YouTube, TheGamingTapir, if you are interested in videos about mapping or level design.
Yeah, I mean, check out the Mapink Discord. I'm starting a YouTube channel, sort of, but it's probably not going to be for most of your viewers, because it's pretty much for like, it's just a devlog channel, you know, it's nothing much.
Nope. I mean, just my channel for learning Source 2. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm self-promoting too much on that, but like
absolutely.
definitely
Please do.
that and my the Discord, the Eagle One Discord.
Oh, I'm not sure. My socials, I suppose. The issue is a lot of the stuff I work on nowadays is tools. Like RedGen, I did some work on Source 2 Viewer, I made the benchmark maps. Recently I started working on a Source 2 wiki.
Oh.
As I said, the VDC is not so good. Dogtown already got in the game, so not much to promote there. I guess just my socials, yeah.
Okay. I have all the full unedited interviews in the description below in a playlist. So if you'd like to watch them, they're an excellent resource and we had some really fun conversations. I specifically want to focus on the feedback they gave though. For example, after I had interviewed Timur and Razzle, I could not help myself and I had to apply their feedback as soon as possible. It became evident that Hayfever was a really good idea and that was about it. A solid layout with an ugly face. And I agree. So I worked and worked and worked applying the feedback that they gave me. I spent time in the mapping server, playing other maps and getting to know the people in there. And there was a lot of playtests happening. It felt very active, and that's because the Lenmo Wingman contest was in full swing at the time. After a week or two, I plucked up the courage to submit my map for a playtest after all these changes. This is where I must mention my newfound friend TheGamingTapir. This guy is like the devil. I was just casually working on my map, very eager for the playtest, adding finishing touches, when he starts sending me screenshots at like 3 AM on a Tuesday of him standing in these ungodly places on my map. I was getting flashbacks to Concave, so in a rush I get back into Hammer and make sure that everything is perfectly clipped. My troll prevention measures have to be up to scratch before this playtest, because at the end of the day I don't want all the feedback to be about how poor my clipping is. I want it to be about how the map plays. When the playtest happened, some people had gripes with how fast the map is. It is definitely a very quick, fast-paced map. And some had some issues with visual language being a little misleading, which I totally understand. But I got a lot of feedback over the overall theming and the quality. So that was really nice. After a final pass, fixing materials and making some slight adjustments to pathing, I was looking at the Lenmo competition specifications, and I realized that I completely qualified with Hayfever. I had started making it weeks after the contest started, and the map was definitely further along than a lot of other grey box maps were, which I was a little worried about, but there was nothing in the rules saying that it couldn't be visually further along than a grey box. So I submitted it. And before I reveal how that went, I just want to rewind the track and address this one thing I said. But this is also a new landmark part of the process for me. I've got basic sound design in now. If it isn't clear, I wrote that sentence long before I had interviewed anyone for this project. So let me cover all the new landmarks, because with this map, I have reached an incredible amount of new heights. Advanced textures, including a custom-made blend texture that combines hay and mud. There's a full 3D skybox, which I learned how to do from, once again, the amazing Sami Chimonahehe and those great videos. And it's a huge improvement over those ugly wooden fences. There are also better areas, like Timur was talking about. There's a barn and a stable, which were direct contributions from Timur and RazzleDazzle, and they make the map so much better for making callouts and actually being engaging. It's so much easier to say he's in the barn than he's in the bit with the purple hay. Yeah. While this map definitely isn't Counter-Strike 2 quality, I can safely say it's the most proud I've been of one of these maps so far, without it just being the quality of the concept alone. I have executed this well. I stopped working on the map after the contest submission date. I didn't want to touch it until we had the results. And on July 23rd, we got them. Pargo by Orb NRG came in 5th. Betchen by Dad came in 4th. Wash by Broken came in 3rd. Berghain by T2Muir came in 2nd. And fucking Hayfever in 1st. And I was in the Mapink voice chat when these reveals happened, and that was kind of crazy. To be honest, I'm a little stunned that I won. I literally wrote expect like 15th in my script. Obviously, I'm really happy with this map, and I think it's solid. I had some tough competition, and I think that it's only fair to give some of that attention back to those people that didn't even make it into the top 5, because there were some really, really good maps in that lineup. First is Particle by Frodoyo, Haze, and Black Picture, which is just a bonkers map conceptually. It takes place around a particle accelerator in 2 warehouses, allowing the terrorists to teleport to the bomb site onto the location. They can teleport with it or separately and walk. Since this result, I've been hanging out with some of these people, and I've gotten to play this map a lot, and it is just so fun. Flintlock by Ice is the first map I playtested in the Mapink server, so maybe I have a little bit of a nostalgic bias for it, but it's a really solid map with a nice layout. I think it's really good. I especially love this bridge that goes over the back of the site. I think that looks so cool. Western by Huey Huha is an incredible little map that I actually hated the first time I tested it. They have been so receptive to the feedback and have been building on it really effectively, and I think it's turned into a very interesting map with a very, very fun bomb site. Excellent flanking routes, fast-paced, but Good for lurkers too. Entropy by Patty is a really interesting map set in a nightclub as well, where almost the entire floor plan of the club is the bomb site, which at first might sound like a nightmare, and admittedly to some players it was, but I thought led to some really interesting cat and mouse gameplay, given that the footprint of the site isn't that big. It's just, you know, the whole map, no matter how small, is kind of a bomb site. But I really like that map. Lastly, Oasis by RazzleDazzle is an insane map which on paper sounds like an awful idea, but I think has been executed really well. It's a hostage map set in an underground cloning facility and a mansion, where the terrorists play as the clones, taking their creators hostage. If that doesn't sound interesting to you, then maybe you need some fun in your life. On top of that, he has also been documenting his process on making that map, and it's just so cool to watch him work. There were 41 submissions to this contest, and every single one required hours of hard work of at least one person. They all deserve their flowers, and you put up a really, really good competition. I've left a link to every map where you can install them all and give them a try. They really deserve your plays. But with that comes the end of the first part. So what's next? Well, I do have to animate for the next episode of Pick a Piece. There's also murmurs of a big Mapink event happening this August. I've also been invited to Lenmo's dev team, which means I'll have people around me with skills in map making that I don't have. So the future is looking bright. I'm really looking forward to making a map. Wherever this series ends up, it's going to be super cool. I'll leave you with these messages. If you really want to do something, I hope this video can show you that it's worth trying. You know, like, shoot your shot, because even if you fail, you learn, and learning is the best. Just remember to be brave, even if it's as simple as joining a voice chat and asking some questions. It's priceless. I would not have won Lenmo or have met some of the amazing people that I have without the guidance of the people that I've spoken to from my interviews and just hanging out. They helped make this map. Second is, if you've watched this far, consider supporting me on Patreon. It's a minimum of $4.50 a month, and it helps keep the channel afloat and lets me experiment and do fun stuff like this. It would really mean a lot. Thirdly, if you liked the music in this video, it was all composed by me and Catsnip, and I've left a full EP in the description below if you're interested. Fourth, if you want to try playtesting maps or are interested in making maps, then join the 5 Discords I've left in the description as well. I'm like Slenderman, collect my Discords. Finally, thank you for watching this far. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're looking forward to what's next. I'll see you when I see you.